For centuries, the Kalan Empire had ruled the outer stars through terror. Entire civilizations vanished after refusing a single transmission. Worlds that resisted were burned from orbit, their cities reduced to glowing ash drifting through the void. No one negotiated with the Kalan. No one defeated them. Across 100 conquered systems, their law was simple: submit or burn. At the center of that fear stood Commander Xyler, master of the dreadnought Void Piercer. He had broken rebellions, shattered fleets, and watched proud species kneel beneath the shadow of his guns. To allies, he was strength. To enemies, he was the last sound before silence. Now he stood upon a bridge of his warship, staring into the endless black between stars. The Void Piercer was 3 miles of armored cruelty, jagged plating, plasma batteries, rail cannons, and engines powerful enough to crack moons from orbit. Its hull carried scars from wars no one else survived. Around it drifted the wreckage of forgotten fleets, reminders of what happened to those who mistook courage for hope. A junior officer bowed low. "Commander, unidentified vessel detected in Sector 7. Xyler's mandibles clicked in amusement. "Another smuggler?" "No, Commander. Small mass signature. Primitive construction. No shields." A murmur passed across the bridge. Primitive. That usually meant easy. Xyler stepped forward, his eyes narrowing at the holographic display. A lone ship drifted across contested space. Slow, ugly, exposed. The kind of vessel that begged before it died. He smiled. "Bring us alongside." The warship turned with predatory grace. Weapons awakened one by one, filling the darkness with silent readiness. Somewhere ahead, a weak little craft had wandered into the wrong part of the galaxy, and Commander Xyler intended to remind it who owned the stars. Now that Phase 1 established a terrifying villain. Phase 2 introduces something small, weak, ordinary. This creates immediate tension. How can this survive that? That question drives retention. What happens in this story? The mighty alien dreadnought encounters. One blocky cargo freighter. Ugly industrial ship. Slow engines. No shields. Civilian appearance. It looks helpless. Perfect contrast. Why this works psychologically? The audience compares. Villain. Huge/deadly/feared. Human target. Tiny/weak/boring. That mismatch creates irresistible curiosity. Exact formula for Phase 2. Step 1. Show weak object/person. Examples: cargo ship, old truck, farmer station, mining rig, shuttle, civilian transport. Step 2. Make it unimpressive. Use words like rusted, blocky, patched, slow, outdated, ugly. Step 3. Put directly in danger. Villain spots it. Step 4. Make villain underestimate it. This is critical. Emotional goal. Viewer thinks they're dead, then keeps watching. Ideal length: 500 to 700 words. Writable Phase 2 example. The vessel looked like scrap metal stitched together by desperation. Its hull was square and uneven, covered in welded plates of mismatched steel. Massive radiator fins jutted from the sides like broken ribs. Engine exhaust sputtered in uneven pulses, pushing it forward at an embarrassing crawl. No weapons ports. No shield emitters. No escort. Across the side of the ship, faded white letters identified it as a registered commercial hauler. Nothing more. The bridge crew of the Void Piercer began to laugh. "This crossed our border alone?" one officer hissed. "It may not even know where it is," another said. Commander Xyler studied the ship in silence. It was offensively unimpressive. No proud war design. No sleek military symmetry. No signs of discipline or threat. Just cargo containers, maintenance scars, and the weary look of something built to work until it died. "A merchant vessel," Xyler finally said, "or a scavenger too stupid to fear us." He leaned over the command rail. "Open a channel." The weapons batteries rotated toward the freighter. Let us hear how loudly it begs. Why this phase is powerful. Because now viewers are trapped by one question. Why is the story focusing on such a weak ship? They subconsciously know it matters. Mistakes to avoid. Too strong target. If ship looks advanced, mystery dies. Too much comedy early. Need danger first. Too much detail. Keep visuals clear and fast. Golden contrast rule. Make weak target look practical. Ugly. Civilian. Harmless. The weaker it seems, the stronger later reveal feels. War Chief Zorvok expected terror. The human cargo ship drifted in silence, engines cold, hull scorched, looking weak enough to break with a single strike. Behind him, the bridge of the blood horizon vibrated with laughter from his officers. Transmit surrender demand, Zorvok ordered. A young navigator hissed with excitement. Shall I include the usual threat of planetary sterilization? Zorvok smiled. Naturally. The message was sent across open frequencies. Surrender your vessel. Transfer all cargo. Kneel before the Carvax Dominion. Resistance will be erased. The bridge waited. Seconds later, a response came. Not fear, not anger, not even military codes. Just a calm human voice. Hello, this is Greg from Terran Logistics Compliance Department. We have received your message. The bridge went silent. Zorvok narrowed all four eyes. Who is Greg? The voice continued. Before any hostile boarding attempt, please note you're currently violating 17 interstellar shipping regulations for trade corridor statutes and 1 sanitation ordinance. Sanitation? Several officers looked confused. Greg kept talking. A digital citation packet has been forwarded to your command systems. Failure to acknowledge within 30 seconds will trigger automatic penalties. Zorvok roared. Open fire. Weapons officers slammed controls. Nothing happened. They checked systems again. Still nothing. The ship's tactical grid had frozen. Screens across the bridge suddenly filled with blinking red notices. Unpaid fines detected. Weapons locked pending review. Hostile action license expired. What sorcery is this? Shouted First Claw Merak. It appears, said the navigator weakly, our systems accepted an incoming software patch. A patch? Yes, Commander. Greg's voice returned, still cheerful. Thanks for updating to combat Suite version 9.2. Several aggressive features were removed for user safety. The bridge erupted in panic. Zorvok slammed his claws into the console hard enough to crack metal. Prepare boarding craft manually. Sir, whispered Merak. What now? The human vessel is moving. Zorvok looked at the main screen. The cargo ship had not fled. It had turned slowly, exposing massive rear engines. Then dozens of hidden compartments opened. Thousands of metallic drones poured into space like a swarm of insects. Construction drones, welding drones, cargo drones, maintenance drones. Zorvok laughed again. They send workers against warships. Then the drones attach themselves to the blood horizon. Hull scanners flash wildly. They're installing something. What? Docking clamps. Another alert screamed. Vessel reclassified. Commercial storage unit. Zorvok stared in disbelief. The mighty flagship of the Carvax Dominion had just been legally redesignated as a warehouse. Then tractor beams engaged. The human cargo ship began towing the disabled battleship away. Greg spoke one final time. Per salvage law subsection 12, abandoned property may be recovered by nearest licensed operator. Thank you for choosing Terran Logistics. Transmission ended. On the bridge, nobody moved. For the first time in his life, War Chief Zorvok felt fear. Because whoever humanity was, they didn't fight wars. They processed them. The blood horizon, pride of the Carvax Dominion, was dragged through open space like scrap metal. Its weapons were locked. Its engines disabled. Its bridge still displayed polite human notifications every 30 seconds. Thank you for your patience. Your case is important to U.S. War Chief Zorvok wanted to scream until stars cracked. Instead, he stood frozen on a command deck while thousands of Terran drones swarmed across the hull, welding bright yellow brackets onto sacred armor plating. What are they doing now? He growled. Navigator Rel checks sensors. They are adding identification labels, Commander. Labels? Rel swallowed. Yes, sir. He read slowly. Property of Terran Asset Recovery Division. The bridge erupted in horrified snarls. A sacred warship, marked like cargo. Minutes later, the towing vessel pulled him into a region of empty space where dozens of massive structures floated in neat geometric rows. Zorvok's blood ran cold. There were captured pirate ships, smuggler frigates, broken destroyers, even 2 ancient Karvax cruisers missing for decades, all parked in numbered lanes, all tagged, all organized. A giant sign rotated slowly above the facility. Sol System Outer holding Yard 12. No unauthorized loitering. We have entered a prison, whispered First Claw Merak. Rel stared at scans. No, sir. What? It's worse. He looked up. It's storage. Docking clamp sees a blood horizon and slid it gently into Bay 447, be between a confiscated mining barge and a luxury passenger liner. The flagship of the Dominion now sat parked beside civilian trash. Then every screen on the bridge changed. A new human appeared. Gray hair, plain shirt, reading glasses, no armor, no rank insignia. He looked mildly annoyed. Good afternoon, he said. I'm Harold Finch, Senior Claims Adjuster. No one spoke. Harold sighed. Let's begin. Your vessel attempted armed robbery in a regulated corridor, violated freight neutrality law, transmitted threats without permit, and damaged lane traffic with debris. He adjusted papers. Normally, this results in immediate liquidation. Zorvok roared. I am War Chief of the Karvax Dominion. Harold nodded politely. Wonderful. Please spell that for Section 3. Zorvok froze. Harold continued. Now you have 2 options. A hologram appeared. Option A, permanent seizure of vessel, sanctions, extradition hearings. Option B, enter Terran Restorative Commerce Program. Merak whispered, What is restorative commerce? Harold smiled. You work off damages. Zorvok laughed bitterly. You mean slavery? Harold frowned. Certainly not. Full benefits, meal vouchers, dental, and overtime after 40 hours. The bridge fell silent. Harold leaned closer. To be frank, Commander, your people are strong, disciplined, resistant to vacuum stress, and surprisingly punctual during combat raids. He checked notes. You make excellent infrastructure crews. Zorvok's claws trembled. You would turn warriors into laborers? Harold gave a tiny shrug. We prefer the term employed. He pressed a button. Outside the viewport, hundreds of Karvax prisoners in safety vests were guiding cargo containers with practiced efficiency. Some waved cheerfully. One held a coffee mug. Zorvok felt something inside him crack. The galaxy had feared the Dominion for centuries. Humanity had reduced them to shift workers. Harold smiled again. So, War Chief, would you like to contest the charges? Zorvok growled through clenched teeth. What happens if I refuse? Harold slid another form forward. Then we begin paperwork. Even the fiercest warriors on the bridge shuddered. Silence ruled the bridge of the Blood Horizon. War Chief Zorvok had faced plasma storms, mutinies, orbital sieges, and assassination pits. Nothing had ever frightened him like the single sheet of paper floating before him. Harold Finch adjusted his glasses. Well, Zorvok glared. I do not sign human surrender documents. Harold blinked. This isn't surrender. He tapped the title. Voluntary participation in Terran Restorative Commerce Program. Zorvok snarled. It is slavery wrapped in polite words. Harold sighed the sigh of a man who had repeated himself too many times. Again, hourly wages, health care, paid leave, retirement matching, grievance channels, and optional dental. First Claw Merak leaned toward Zorvok. Commander, what is dental? No idea, Zorvok hissed. Harold continued. You may also earn back ownership rights to your vessel after damages are repaid. That changed everything. Zorvok's eyes narrowed. How long? Harold checked a tablet. At current valuation of damages, towing fees, legal processing, anti-piracy response surcharge, software patch licensing fee. He scrolled. Approximately 14 years. The bridge exploded in outrage. 14 years. Harold raised a finger. 12 if you accept overtime. The room became quiet again. Zorvok stared at the paper. For generations, Karvax culture had glorified battle scars, conquest, and domination. Now survival required signatures. He hated humanity. He hated their calm voices, their tidy systems, their weaponized politeness. And most of all, he hated that they had already won, not through force, through structure. Harold slid a pen across the table. This one writes. Zorvok picked it up suspiciously. It is tiny. It's a pen. He looked at Merak. If I sign this, history will curse me. Merak looked out the viewport at Carvax workers in safety vests eating lunch peacefully beside cargo loaders. Or remember you as the one who kept us alive. Zorvok said nothing. Slowly, painfully, he scratched his name onto the document. Harold smiled warmly. Excellent. Welcome aboard. Instantly, every screen changed. Employee onboarding initiated. What now? Zorvok growled. A cheerful instructional video began playing. Upbeat music filled the bridge. A smiling animated hard hat waved. Hello, new team member. Safety is everyone's responsibility. Several officers screamed. Harold stood. Your orientation begins at 0600. Uniforms are mandatory. Harassment training is Thursday. We are warriors. Now you are union eligible. Transmission ended. Zorvok stared into empty space. The mighty Carvax Dominion had not been destroyed. It had been hired. And tomorrow he had a shift. War Chief Zorvok did not sleep. He spent the night sitting upright in assigned quarters the size of a storage locker, wearing a reflective orange vest labeled Temporary Crew, Probationary. Every time he looked at it, his blood pressure rose. At exactly 0600, alarms chimed softly. Not war drums, not battle horns. A pleasant melody. Then a human voice filled the room. Good morning, Zorvok. Today is a great day for safe productivity. He nearly tore the speaker off the wall. Outside, corridors swarmed with movement. Carvax warriors, pirates, former mercenaries, even rival species once feared across the sector, all walking in orderly lines carrying lunch containers. No chains, no guards, just schedules. Zorvok felt sick. He entered Bay 447, B where towering cargo stacks reached into darkness. Hundreds of workers moved in coordinated precision, while drones zipped overhead painting lane markers. At the center stood a human supervisor. Short, round, holding a clipboard. Ah, new intake, she said brightly. You must be Zorvok. I'm Linda. Zorvok towered over her. I was war chief of the Dominion. Linda checked her sheet. MHM, forklift certification pending. He blinked. What? She handed him a helmet. Steel-toe boots are in locker 9. Hair restraint if needed. I do not need restraint. It's for loose strands. I have no fur. Great, easier compliance. She clapped once. Team meeting. Dozens gathered around. Linda pointed to a board. Today's goals. Unload titanium or sort salvage alloys and reduce corridor clutter by 12%. She smiled. If we hit targets, Pizza Friday stays approved. The crowd cheered. Zorvok looked around in horror. They were motivated. By rewards, not fear. Linda turned to him. You'll start on container lifts. Heavy stuff. Perfect for your species. I refuse. She wrote something on the clipboard. Copy that. Marking decline task without basis. 3 of those triggers, coaching. What is coaching? A conversation no one enjoys. Zorvok took the helmet. Hours later, he carried cargo containers weighing more than battle tanks. He expected humiliation. Instead, workers nodded respectfully. A scarred pirate captain grinned. Use your legs, not your back. Learned it the hard way. A former assassin handed him water. Hydrate. Linda notices. By midday, Zorvok had moved 83 tons of alloy. No bloodshed, no screaming, no betrayal, just progress. At lunch break, he sat alone, staring at packaged food. Merak dropped beside him wearing the same vest. How many write-ups? Merak asked. 2. Good start. I have 4. They ate in silence. Across the bay, Linda laughed with workers from 6 species while explaining overtime forms. Zorvok watched cranes rise, containers shift, Systems flow like a living machine. It was efficient. It was disciplined. It was powerful. And no one had fired a shot. For the first time, a dangerous thought entered his mind. Perhaps humanity had not conquered the galaxy. Perhaps they had organized it. 3 months passed. War Chief Zorvok no longer corrected people when they called him Zor. At first, he had vowed never to adapt. Then he learned the cafeteria served double portions to employees with top productivity scores. Now he wore his ID badge visibly and arrived 6 minutes early. The shame of this haunted him. The benefits helped. Bay 447 B had changed under his presence. Container throughput increased 32%. Accidents dropped to 0. Break schedules became precise. Workers stood straighter when he walked by, not because they feared execution, because they feared disappointing him. Linda noticed everything. She approached one morning holding a coffee cup larger than military helmets. "Good news," she said. "I do not trust human good news. You've been nominated." "For what?" "Shift lead." Zorvok recoiled as if struck. "I am a war chief." "Exactly. Leadership experience. I commanded fleets. Now you'll command loading lanes." "This is insult." Linda sipped coffee. "It comes with dental." He hesitated. Merak appeared instantly. "Take it." Zorvok glared. "Why are you here?" "I heard the word dental and moved on instinct." By afternoon, Zorvok stood before 30 workers wearing a new vest. Shift lead. He hated how proud he felt. Linda handed him a tablet. Morning checklist. Assign tasks. Monitor morale. Approve breaks. Resolve disputes. "I resolve disputes with dominance. Try mediation first." The day began badly. 2 miners argued over lane priority. A smuggler refused helmet compliance. A drone union representative requested charging access parity. Zorvok nearly started a riot twice. But by end of shift, lanes were clear, quotas exceeded, and everyone left on time. He returned to quarters exhausted in a way battle never caused. Combat was simpler. Destroy obstacle. Move forward. This required patience, memory, and 10,000 tiny decisions. Weeks later, Harold Finch visited the bay. He reviewed numbers quietly, then looked up. Impressive. Zorvok crossed his arms. "Mock me if you wish." Harold frowned. "Why would I mock Prophet?" He handed over a report. 447. Be ranked number 1 in outer yard efficiency. Workers cheered. Someone lifted Zorvok onto their shoulders. He roared instinctively, then realized it sounded less like a battle cry and more like team spirit. That night, Merak entered carrying 2 drinks. "We have problem," Merak said. "What now?" Merak sat. "I no longer dream of conquest." Zorvok stared. "What do you dream of?" Merak whispered shamefully. "Pension." They sat in silence. Then both burst into rough laughter that shook the room. Because the most dangerous thing humanity had done was not capture them, not find them, not make them work. It had given warriors something they never had before, a future worth keeping. One standard year after the fall of the Blood Horizon, a fleet entered holding Yard 12, Karvax warships, 27 of them, black armored hulls. Plasma cannons charged, banners raised in challenge. Every alarm in the yard activated. Dock workers froze. Drones scattered. Traffic lanes locked down. Across Bay 447, B, workers looked to one being. Shift lead Zorvok. He stepped forward slowly, wearing steel-toe boots, safety helmet, and high-visibility vest. Merak rushed to his side. The old Dominion returns. On the main screen appeared a face from the past. Supreme General Draxer, Zorvok's former rival. Massive scar across one eye. Voice full of contempt. "Zorvok," Draxer growled. "We heard rumors. I did not believe them." He looked at the vest. "You became livestock." Workers around Zorvok stiffened. Draxer continued. "I have united loyal fleets. We will destroy these humans, free our people, and restore glory." Some Karvax workers lowered their eyes. Old instincts stirred. Old pride. Old rage. Draxer smiled. "Stand aside and kneel." I may yet grant you honorable death. Merak whispered, "Say the word. We still know how to fight." Zorvok said nothing. Instead, he checked his wrist tablet. Draxer blinked. "What are you doing?" "Reviewing lane reservations." "What?" Zorvok raised his voice. "General Draxer, your fleet entered a regulated docking perimeter without filed approach vectors, insurance certification, customs declaration, emissions clearance, or weapons transport permits." Silence. Even humans stopped moving. Draxer snarled, "I came for war, not paperwork." Zorvok's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Yes, I remember feeling that way." He pressed a button. Across the yard, hundreds of defense platforms unfolded from harmless cargo towers. Human destroyers powered weapons. Construction drones formed tactical swarms. Massive tug ships aligned tractor beams at strategic angles. The entire yard had been a fortress all along. Draxer hesitated. Zorvok continued calmly. "You have two choices." A document appeared on every enemy screen. Option A, immediate impoundment of fleet, seizure of assets, crew detention. Option B, retroactive compliance filing, temporary docking rights, reduced penalties if submitted within 10 minutes. Draxer roared so loudly comm systems distorted. "You dare lecture me?" Zorvok stepped closer to the camera. "No." He smiled, a terrifying blend of predator and administrator. "I dare invoice you." Behind him, thousands of workers erupted in laughter. Draxer ordered weapons lock. Nothing happened. Harold Finch appeared in a small side window. "Hello. We noticed unauthorized targeting behavior and remotely suspended your fire control software pending review." Draxer looked ready to explode. Zorvok folded his arms. "You see, old friend, humanity taught us something." He gestured to the yard. "Conquest is temporary." Then he tapped the violation total, climbing rapidly. "Systems are forever." 10 minutes later, 27 Carvax warships powered down voluntarily. By sunset, their crews were in orientation videos, and General Draxer had been assigned forklift training. News of holding yard 12 spread faster than any war fleet. 27 Carvax warships had entered with weapons hot and left with employee handbooks. The galaxy could not process it. Pirate syndicates mocked the story. Then Terran auditors froze their fuel accounts. 3 pirate kings surrendered by week's end. A militant empire in the Perseus Reach threatened invasion. Their admirals received zoning maps, environmental restrictions, and estimated litigation costs. They requested diplomacy within hours. Even ancient machine intelligences, beings who had erased civilizations, paused after learning humans had once made the Carvax attend mandatory harassment seminars. Something fundamental was changing. Across the stars, species began realizing that humanity's greatest weapon was not fleets. It was procedure. On Caldrus Prime, senators debated trade routes using Terran compliance templates. On the moons of Vera, clan chiefs replaced blood duels with arbitration panels. On mining worlds once ruled by gangs, former criminals now argued passionately about pension contribution percentages. The age of chaos was being buried under forms. At Holding Yard 12, Zorvok watched it happen from an office overlooking Bay 447B. Yes, an office, with glass walls, a desk, 2 plants he did not understand, and a nameplate, Operations Manager Zorvok. He hated how much he loved it. Merak entered carrying reports. "Morning numbers," he said. "Throughput up 9%. Accident rate down. Also, cafeteria requests your opinion on Spicy Stew Tuesday. Approve. You approved last week. Approve again." Merak grinned. There was a knock. Linda entered smiling. "You're due for promotion review." Zorvok narrowed, all eyes. "I already lead Bay's fleets, salvage lanes, and disciplinary boards." "Exactly. Regional Director track." He stood, so fast the chair rolled backward. "I was once destined to conquer sectors." Linda nodded. "And now you can optimize them." He hated when humans made sense. An alarm chimed. New arrivals entering outer lane. Screen feeds opened. 3 massive Volkeri battlecruisers hovered at the perimeter, weapons charged. Their envoy appeared. We reject your relay construction. Withdraw or be burned to ash. Merak looked excited. Ah, old-fashioned threat. Zorvok felt something warm and nostalgic. He adjusted his glasses. Open channel. The envoy sneered. You are the famous Carvax trader? No, Zorvok said calmly. I am operations manager. He pressed a button. Thousands of files flooded Volcarized systems instantly. Claims notices, historical easement maps, hazard citations, unlicensed intimidation penalties, mandatory hearing dates. The envoy stared in horror. What is this? Zorvok smiled. This, he leaned closer, is just the pre-attachment packet. The battle cruisers retreated 17 kilometers without firing. Linda clapped softly. Beautiful work. Zorvok sat back down. Long ago, he had dreamed of standing atop burning worlds. Now entire fleets fled because he sent attachments. Power had changed shape, and he intended to master all of it. 5 standard years after the capture of the Blood Horizon, the galaxy was quieter than it had been in millennia. Not peaceful, quiet. There was a difference. Wars still tried to begin. They simply never got far. Armadas stalled in customs queues. Invasions were delayed by environmental reviews. Rebellions collapsed when payroll systems were frozen. Raider clans abandoned violence after discovering healthcare deductibles. The stars had not been pacified by fear. They had been domesticated by administration. At Holding Yard 12, Operations Manager Zorvok stood before the largest assembly of his life. Thousands of workers from 100 species filled the central platform. Humans, Carvax, machines, former pirates, former emperors, current Union reps. Behind them floated a newly completed structure the size of a moon. Interstellar Logistics Hub Prime, the most important trade nexus in 3 spiral arms. And today, it would receive its first director. Linda stepped to the podium. She looked older now, but still carried the same clipboard. 5 years ago, she began, we took in one hostile battleship and a very angry war chief. Laughter rolled across the station. Zorvok pretended not to react. Linda continued. He resisted orientation, failed teamwork modules, threatened a vending machine, and filed 17 complaints about ergonomic seating. They were valid complaints, Zorvok muttered. More laughter. But he also rebuilt every broken system placed before him. She gestured around the station. He turned raiders into crews, rivals into teams, chaos into schedules. Her smile softened, and against all odds he learned email. Thunderous applause erupted. Zorvok bowed his head in deep shame. Linda lifted a badge. By unanimous vote of the Terran Directorate and Allied Labor Council, she pinned it to his vest. I appoint Zorvok as Regional Director of Outer Systems Operations. The crowd exploded. Sirens blared. Confetti cannons fired. Several Carvax roared proudly. Merak openly cried. Zorvok stood motionless. Years ago he had wanted crowns, tribute, surrender. Now he held something stranger. Trust. Harold Finch appeared by hollow call. Congratulations, he said. Your first task begins immediately. Zorvok should have known. What task? Harold's screen split. A dozen unknown fleets had massed near the frontier. Young empires, fresh warlords, burning banners, hungry eyes. Their transmission came through. We claim these sectors by right of conquest. Oppose us and be destroyed. The crowd turned to Zorvok. The old warrior inside him stirred one final time. Then he adjusted his glasses. Patch me through? The enemy leader appeared, armored and furious. State your final words. Zorvok's mandibles clicked slowly. Yes. He opened a file. You are operating 12 unregistered military vessels in a protected transit corridor with unpaid tariffs, illegal emissions, and no declared waste disposal plan. The warlord blinked. What? You have 20 minutes to submit forms 88A through 88L. He smiled a smile that once terrified galaxies. After that, penalties begin. Transmission ended. Around him, thousands cheered. Linda laughed. Harold nodded proudly. Merak whispered, You have become more dangerous than ever. Zorvok looked out across the stars, at fleets, stations, lanes, and worlds connected not by fear, but by systems. He answered quietly, "No." Then he straightened his vest. "I became permanent."